is to stop your dryads, especially if you have a panda and or a dark ranger. Your army is just very, very strong against his, because you can dispel his water elementals, which are pretty much his only counter to your dryads, and quickly take down pretty much everything he has. And you can see the second that that Soju gets even one dryad out, he's immediately going after the human player, and just picking off units one at a time, making sure not to focus the defended footmen with the dryads, but instead just using his heroes to pick off the defended footmen, using the dryad to slow one if necessary, but just taking down the units one at a time without losing any dryads in the process. Using his heroes very effectively to get that done. Heroes and skeletons, and Breath of Fire, of course. And now he's amassing a fairly sizable dryad army, and the human player is only just reaching tier 2. So at this point, you as a Night Elf player, if you successfully accomplish this the way that Soju has, right at this time is where you have a very, very sizable advantage. And the human player's only hope, really, to keep you from winning right here is if he has a lot of towers in his base. But even then, the panda, plus skeletons, if you use them correctly, are a very strong answer to towers, because when he starts trying to repair, the peons turn into more skeletons for you, Breath of Fire damaging the towers. You can take them down fairly quickly. And if you are... And if you play this correctly, you can often win the game right here, especially if you do a good job of picking off individual units like Soju has been. So you see, Soju saw at the expansion. The expansion was fairly well fortified. The towers are well placed. He has a shop right there, including an arcane tower that's going to be easily repaired. And so instead, Soju simply runs to the main. And you can see exactly why the Panda and Dark Ranger are so good in this fight. There's nothing that the human player can do against the Dryads. The Dryads are just going to hang out by the Archmage, dispel the water elementals, stay out of range of the towers. And meanwhile, the two heroes, in combination with the skeletons, are going to kill all of the human player's repairing peasants, and then set in on finishing off the towers. So you can see one tower is already down. The human player is only left with one guard tower. And Soju's in a position to finish this game right here before things get any more complicated. You'll notice that Soju just keeps his Dryads out of range of the towers. It's a similar philosophy to how you play against defended footmen. You keep your Dryads out of range, only slowing when necessary, and just use your heroes. The human player still only has one hero. The skeletons are quickly taking down the towers, and of course Dispel is making quick work of the water elementals, and just as simple as that, the game is over before the human was ever able to capitalize on his expansion. And meanwhile, Soju's expansion was uncontested this entire game. So you can see, a place where I feel like a lot of elf players go wrong is that, like I said, they get too nervous about the human player's expansion going up. They know the expansion's coming, they try to stop it at all costs, and right there, if they fail to make that happen, the game becomes very, very difficult to win. I feel like a lot of the time, as a Night Elf player, it works to your advantage to tech at normal speed, expand yourself, and just keep the human player engaged so that he can't stop your expansion. Yes, your expansion is going to be a little bit slower than his, but you have enough advantages to counteract that. And once your expansion is up, all of a sudden you're on the same level resources-wise, and you have hopefully higher hero levels, a better tech, and all of a sudden the advantage is back in your court. So you need to. So I feel like a lot of times the Night Elf player needs to not worry so much about the expansion going up, just expand yourself and make sure the expansion goes up successfully, and then from then just use your unit and hero advantage to regain the overall game advantage, despite the fact that he's going to have more resources mined. If you look at the game statistics for this game, the human player had about 1,000 more gold mined, but as you can see, it really didn't matter, because the hero and unit advantage with the Dryads and the Dark Ranger Panda was more than sufficient to make up 1,000 golden resources, especially with with just 2 heroes versus 1, which is another byproduct of the slow tech that the human player has. And so the bottom line is that you need to use, if the human player expands, the main advantage that you have is that his tech is going to be significantly slower because of it. And so you need to capitalize on your tech advantage by using your 2 heroes and using your dryads to pick off as many units as you can, and keeping them on the defensive the entire time so that you can actually gain your own expansion during the process. That's the basic theory for how to deal with a human who's quick expanding on a map like Echo Isles, where you have these tavern heroes as your option. And that's, again, that's not the only way to play it, but it's a very, very effective way to play it. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit, as this has been a fairly short replay, is what happens next if you don't just win the game right there like Soju did. Obviously, a lot of things went really well for Soju in this game. He played very well, was able to pick off so many of the human player's units that he was able to just win the game right there. A lot of time, though, this game will go into Tier 3. It will go into a late game fight. The human player will get his Mountain King or his Naga or whatever he chooses to go second out, and start pumping his army of Breaker, Caster, Mortar. Generally speaking, that's what the human player will do in this case. So if this happens, this game is still very winnable for you, because the fact remains that his tech is still slower, and it's very possible to have a level 3 panda to his level 1 Mountain King or whatever his second hero is. You have to just capitalize on that time when you have dryads and he doesn't have his tier 2 units out yet. If he eventually gets them out, that's okay, but hopefully you've established enough of an advantage at that point. And the basic idea is that if you expand yourself and you fortify that expansion, this is another thing that Night Elf players often fail to do, is they'll make their expansion but they won't put anything next to it. Not a very good idea. You notice that game that Soju put his Ancient of War near it. Another thing you should generally do is also put your Moonwells, maybe even put one of your lures down there or a shop down there. Just put a little bit of effort into fortifying that expansion to make it a little bit harder for them to kill. As you have a fortified expansion of your own, then it's generally safe for you to go to tier 3 as you're expanding. You pick up your staff, you make sure not to lose units, you pick off his units as best as you can, and then as soon as it gets to the point when he has too many rifles or too many mortars for you to be able to pick off things without losing things yourself, you step back, you creep a little bit, and hopefully by that point you have your tier 3. At which point that you have enough bears to fight his army. And if he's low on rifles, or just in general, it's often a good idea to mix in an Ancient of Wind for a few fairy dragons. If he's really heavy rifle caster, it's often a good idea to add a third hero like a Pit Lord, or a third hero of your choice, whatever you like to play third. And then from there you can win the big fight. Make sure to use silence in your AoE spells. And you can win the big fight because you're on an equal playing field with resources, and hopefully if you've played it correctly, you have the level advantage. And so at that point the game is still incredibly winnable, and that's often how it goes. So this has been a pretty short but sweet commentary about the human matchup, and hopefully you guys picked up something from this. Hopefully Night Elf players who get frustrated at that human expansion will have a few things to try after this, after hearing this particular strategy. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know what you want to hear next, and I will hopefully be able to get that done for you. And there should be another commentary coming for you relatively soon. There shouldn't be nearly as much of a break between my last one as there was between my last one and this. So more good stuff coming for you guys. And yeah, this has been Balance from WCRreplays.com. I will see you next time.